Good afternoon, campers. This is John Kolensik from high atop the Matrix Towers in beautiful downtown Cleveland. How's everybody's Thursday going? Thursday, the 12th day of May, almost halfway through the year. Unbelievable how fast things are going. We're going to get started here and kind of start plowing away. So let's just kind of take it right from the top. Welcome to the S.I.T Learning Series, where we practice the sell on value, not on price system of selling. The whole idea here, folks, is this. Sales is not a linear system. It's not a black and white, step one, step two type thing. It's a logical system. We're dealing with human beings, and human beings can do so many different things in so many different ways. The whole idea is to have a system that's flexible enough to allow you to do the things you need to do, to make the sales you need to make, and not put you in the position that happens so often where, what happens if? Why didn't I take that step? You've got to be able to be flexible and move and do what's best for your customers when it's time to do it, and not be worried about the constraints of A, B, and C type system. That's the S.I.T logical, not linear system. I'm John Kolensik. Right down there you see the phonetical spelling of my name, Kolensik, with Matrix Impact, the president of Matrix Impact, actually. And I want to thank you for tuning in. And let's just get rolling here. Today's topic is the S.I.T lead generation system. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about a nurture prospecting system that produces a consistent stream of higher touch leads, something that's going to always make you your customer's first option. And quite frankly, isn't that what it's all about? Putting ourselves in that position to win every potential time. Now, am I telling you that you're going to close every time? No. That's another seminar, another webinar, and I'll get you on that one too. But I am telling you I'm going to put you in position to win every time by using this system. All right, before we get too much into the weeds here, first let's talk about some webinar how-tos. We have 389 people on today. Thank you very much for coming on in. And I want to first of all let everybody know, because there's so many people, we only have 4 staffers on today, so we're going to do our best to get to all the questions. Make sure when they come up during the presentation to chat them over. To your right, it should be the right on your screen, you have the ability to chat over a question. If you see exactly where I'm at there, you should be able to send over a question, or you can actually chat over a comment to me directly. Either way, it will get answered, and I will put it up on the screen. If you don't want me to put it on the screen, if it's something that you want me to answer privately, I will take that and make sure that I only answer to you privately. That way, you know, there's no embarrassment, anything like that that goes on. But yeah, over on your right-hand side in your GoToMeeting box, there should be an ability to ask questions as well as chat. So, questions about webinar before I go on? Any questions about how to work any of those functions over there? I'll give us about 30 seconds here. All right, no questions on the webinar how-tos. So let's move ahead. But before we get started, a little PSA, a public service announcement for us, for all salespeople and management out there, something to get us off on the right foot. NME, no more excuses. The weather, the traffic, my boss this, my customers that, my mother, my father, my sister, my brother. I don't have enough, but what I really need is, I can't, I couldn't, they shouldn't, they wouldn't, they didn't. If only the company, if only he, if only she, if only they would just do this. If it's been a tough day, a tough week, tough year, tough quarter, tough century. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever day. Any of these sound familiar, folks? Stop it. Start being. Move forward. Cease to complain. From here on out, we cease to be a victim. Your thoughts, your ideas, your words, they can and they will move others. Your thoughts and ideas and words can and will move you. But you've got to make sure you're sending out the right things in the right direction. Think of it like this. Complaining once less a day chokes off 365 seeds of negativity a year. When you're on the phone, put a smile on yourself when you're doing that phone. Make another phone call. Do another drop-off. Do that in the path of a complaint. Instead of complaining about he said, said, this didn't happen, do one more good thing, a smile, a phone call, a drop-off, another letter, whatever it might be. Do this one time daily, just this one act, and I promise you'll be pleasantly surprised with the results. Remember, NME is the enemy of failure. Also, so you know, you'll be getting a copy of this NME along with a copy of your presentation tomorrow in your email. All right, that's the end of the beginning. Now let's get started with our topic. What are we going to be talking about and what are we going to be covering today? We are going to be covering the S.I.T lead generation system. But the three main points of the S.I.T lead generation system are this. First, the underlying philosophy of S.I.T, because quite frankly, if you don't buy into why this works, it won't work. You've got to understand the why. Next thing is the elements and the structure of the S.I.T system. What are the pieces that need to go in, as well as how are those pieces put together in a functioning format? And then finally, using S.I.T in the real world. I'll be showing you some examples of real-life S.I.T, whether it be letters, whether they be actual schedules, you name it, as well as an article from a friend of ours who actually employs a S.I.T system and some of the different touches, and show you in exactly how the S.I.T system can work in the real world. Before I go on, any questions of what we'll be covering? All right, let's talk about what I've set out as the goals for today. The goals for today, in terms of the S.I.T system, is this. What I want to do is show you a system that's going to help decrease time in the sales cycle and increase your closing percentage. That alone will justify your hour on the phone with me today. Next, I want to show you something that's going to help remove the UGG factor from our phone calls and warm up our cold calling. Not going to go into specifics of what the UGG factor is now. We're going to get into that as we go in a little bit further down the line here. Next, increase our average sales size. Now, I know you might say, well, gosh, John, what does that mean? Does that mean where it's going to be bigger, more clunky to be selling? No, what it means is we want you to still sell the same amount that you're selling now, but also increase the amount that you sell to each individual customer. Thus, if you only sell the exact same number of deals you did last year that you do this year, you're going to be making more money. Next, I want to give you a system that's going to help you to receive that magic call from contacts, all right? That call that comes in and says, hey, you know what, I just got this from you and I was wondering about it. Can you give me some more information? I promise you, when you do the system correctly, those kind of calls happen. They do happen. Next, we want to make sure that you have a real reason to call our contacts and not just be stuck saying those four dreaded words, I just wanted to. We want to make sure that there's a real business-focused reason for you to call them, a value-driven reason to be talking to our customers, because there's nothing worse than that feeling of getting them on the phone and hearing the UGG factor. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then finally, we want to be a thought leader. That is the purpose of this program. How do we become a thought leader? Somebody our client turns to when they have questions, because they know they just, quite frankly, they're not going to be buying all the time. If somebody's buying all the time, well, God bless them, and I want them as a client. But most people don't buy 100% of the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we know that there are going to be times when we've got to provide service to those folks that they can't do anything for us. We want to be those people that provide that information, that are always in their top of mind. So when they need information, we are that bastion of where they can come to get it, that provider. You name the word, the vocabulary word there, and that's what we want to be, all right? That's where we want to be. It really goes, to as simple as this, folks, and I just want to kind of beat on this for one more second. When it comes to goals and putting together a lead generation program, the bottom line is, decreasing sales cycle, increasing closing percentage, but I really want us to look at it as a holistic thing of improving our overall business ability within the organization, but more importantly, improving it to a way that we become resources to our customers and not salespeople. We become business associates and not salespeople to our customers. Now, there is one thing that we're not going to talk about today, and it's really not a goal today, and I want to kind of address it right now. And it's one of those touchy-feely things, but it's something that you can't do without it. And what it is, quite frankly, it's hard work. It's the wit, whatever it takes approach. If you do not have that wit, if you do not have the whatever it takes approach to the job of sales and or sales management, go back to an hourly clock job. Okay, this is not for you. Find something else. Do something else. But if you don't have the whatever it takes mentality, I don't care, how well you listen today to this webinar, this program will not work for you. Next, Let's pay attention to where I spend the bulk of today's time. I'll explain later, but I want you to pay attention to where I'm spending the time so you see exactly when I tie things up at the end why I spent the time there. And then finally, let's dispense with some vocabulary issues up front here. Let's talk about some things that I'm going to be saying so we're on the same page initially. Suspect, prospect, and customer. All right, those three terms. Suspect is somebody that we don't know if they're a prospect or they can become a customer. We have no idea. We know that they might be in our marketplace. We know that they fit some criteria. We don't know anything else other than about them. Prospect, we know, and we've qualified them that they do have some of those things that we can do something with them. Most importantly, they have what we call active needs. You know, where a suspect might have those what we call dormant needs. A prospect will have active needs where they're actively looking for something. And then customer, well, that's self-explanatory. Sit touch, all right, that's going to be described as any time that we're touching our customer, whether it be a phone call, whether it be a letter, whatever venue that we use, that's going to be a sit touch. Cold call, I know there's a lot of discussion and debate about what a cold call is, and I hate cold calls, I hate this. Let's just get it out of off our shoulders now and get it out of our vocabulary now. I might use the word cold call, that's fine. When I'm going to be talking about it in terms of how it fits within the SIT system, the initial contact calling that needs to happen. So let's not worry about that. Next, drop off. That's any time when you're out to a person's facility and you physically drop off information to them, whatever it might be. And then marketing versus lead generation, a very, very clear distinction here. In my terminology, what marketing is this great overlying concept of where and what a company is trying to do, everything from branding with websites and logos and all that stuff. Where lead generation is an offshoot, is a deliberate piece of the overall marketing plan. Now, in some organizations, lead generation may be all that you can do in terms of marketing depending on your size. But lead generation, as we're talking about it today, is going to be specifically about what are those little things, what are these things that we can put together and string together into a workable plan that we can measure, monitor, and modify and do something that can start to bring in more leads, increase our average unit selling price, and most importantly, increase our overall sales as we go. There's a difference between marketing and lead generation. I just want to make sure we understand it. Questions on any of the definitions, goals, anything that we're going to be talking about? Give you a second. Oh, we got a question here. All right, John. Yep, we're still on the goals side. That's because the other things I brought it up, I didn't put the other ones on the slide. They're just kind of things for us to note. Thanks, John. Thanks for the question. All right. Now, we're going to have some help to go through today, and I'm going to introduce you to that help right now. These guys are the best practice league. They're the paragons of business skill possessed by the top 7% of all business performers. And up top, let's point out the guys here. Up top, we've got Matrix Man. He is the guy who personifies virtually all the great skills that's necessary to be a true high-performing business professional. And notice I'm not saying sales professional, I'm saying a business professional. He's an amalgamation of all the other folks you have underneath. And down here to your immediate, to your stage, or not stage left, to your left, you have Gage. Gage is our hiring and assessment expert. We're not going to be spending a whole lot of time with him today. To Gage's left, we have Coach. And Coach is the gentleman who's going to be helping us out, telling us exactly what we need to do, how we need to do it, giving us that motivation and bumping us along as we need it. Next to Coach, we've got Timetable. Timetable helps us figuring out exactly, when things need to go out, how they need to go out, what's the organization of them, because he is Mr. Organized. He's got everything down to the second organized. Over there next, we have the question. And the question is the person who we know the least about, but we do know that she asks the best questions out there, and she knows how to get to the heart of any problem. We're not going to be dealing a whole lot with her today, but she'll be somebody you see on other webinars. Next to the question, we have Urgent, and Urgent is the gentleman who always reminds us to keep moving forward. His whole thing is AMF, always move forward, always be moving. Remember, urgency isn't just in the eye of the beholder, it's also in the eye of the customer. Customer might see urgency differently than you, and you've always got to be there to help them move forward. And then finally, who's going to be our biggest help today is Contact. She's the queen of lead generation. She's the one who knows how to get out there. She's the one who knows to make sure she's reaching out and contacting all the different clients in all the different ways, and we're going to be talking to her, and she's going to be helping us out a lot as we go through here. Before we move on to M.O.B., though, I think I got a question. Let me bring that up. Yep, John, I got that. Let me, all right, let me get rid of that. All right. All right. All right, so that's the best practice league, and they're the ones who are going to be helping us there on the good side. Okay, those are the good guys. But here come the bad guys. M.O.B.B, Masters of Bad Business. These guys are no good. And what I mean by no good is they're no good business people. They do not know business to save their life. They're led by, right here, Dr. Know-It-All. And Dr. Know-It-All is just like he sounds. He thinks he knows it all the time. Well, he doesn't know it all, and he winds up bringing everybody down because of that. Over to the far left, we've got the Master Manipulator. Right next to the Master Manipulator, we've got Time Thief. And then next to Time Thief, we've got somebody who we're going to be running into big time today, and his name is Dis-Ogre. Dis-Ogre can really put a clot in your day because he can ruin you in multiple ways, from losing things, from not being organized, from not having time set up. You name it, anything to do with disorganization, and Dis-Ogre can get you. And then finally, Mr. Presentation. Well, he's a garish guy who just likes to talk about himself. Thank goodness we don't have to listen to him today, but he will be coming up in some presentations to come. If I don't have any questions, I'm going to head right over and get started in terms of the S.I.T philosophy. Any questions on M.O.B.B or the Best Practice League? All right. So let's jump on over and get started with our S.I.T philosophy. What S.I.T is all about, as simple as this is, it's the contact with people. It's reaching out. It's about developing relationships. More than anything, it's about competitive differentiation and how we do that. So what we've got to figure out is, sorry guys, don't know what the heck's going on here with the computer. We've got to figure out what's the best way of doing that. Fortunately, the S.I.T philosophy lays that out for us and tells us exactly how to do it in the best, most high value added way. First point of the S.I.T philosophy. You all might have seen this before in a different setup, but this is the way I use it. Treat suspects like prospects, treat prospects like customers, and customers like you can't do without them. And why? Anybody like to venture a guess there? Because you can't. You can't do without customers. But what we've got to do is we've got to find a way to start displaying who we are initially to customers before they go into the cycle. They've got to start buying into how good we are at customer service before they're actually prospects, before we even know what they can be doing. And then as customers, we've got to make sure that we're always treating them with the best possible, highest level of customer service. You might say, well, duh, John. And what I say is, I wouldn't be bringing this up if I don't see it every day. It's amazing how many people let stuff like this just slip because of that. Remember, this is the beginning of competitive differentiation. We've got to do this so we can change our mindset and how we look at things. It's not just about attaining customers. It's about developing relationships and developing a community of people that we're continually doing business with, not just people that we do business with, every once in a great while. The 95-5 rule, all right? Well, this is based on something from Adam Smith, who's the founder of modern economic theory, all right? And, this is something, quite frankly, I know you before we're getting a little touchy-feely and there's some other things, but this is some solid black and white number stuff to think about here, all right? 95-5 rule. We have two different worlds. We've got over here, whoops, sorry about that, go back. We have over here to the left, we've got the world of people who at any given time are not looking for, you name it. They're not looking for whatever you have to sell. So they're not in the marketplace. And over here, you've got the world where people are looking, are in the marketplace, or dormant versus active needs is another way of looking at it. Dormant. Oh, sorry. What the heck's going on here? Dormant. Oops, sorry about this, folks. Versus active needs. And where the 95-5 comes in is this. At any given time in your marketplace, 95 people or 95% of the people aren't looking for what you have. Only 5% of those people are looking for what you have. So where's the bigger number? Obviously in the dormant side. But let's talk about the active side. At that same time that those 5 people that are actively looking at any given time, what are they doing? Well, they're out there looking, or they're pinging, as I like to call it, for people to come and tell them about what they can do. Out of that 5 that are out there, so let's just say you only have 100 potential customers, and we'll just use the number and make it easy to think of as 5. You can have as many as 7 competitors hitting that one customer. Now, sales being what it is, and if you're doing okay, that gives you, if you just do the average number, you're getting about 14% chance of actually closing something. A good salesperson is somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 or 60%. An average salesperson is somewhere in that neighborhood of 30% of closing. But whatever number you want to throw out there, 7 people hitting only 5 potential, or 5% of the potential marketplace, that doesn't bode well for your overall numbers. But now let's go over to that 95%, okay, or that 95 potential people. Anybody want to take a guess on the number of people that are actually, number of your competitors that are actually dinging on that 95 at any given time? Anybody like to take a guess? Just chat it over or question it over. Give you all a second. All right, Peter, what do you say, Peter? Peter says 2. That's a good number. Anybody else like to take a guess? Who we got there? Mary Jane. Mary Jane, how many do you say? Mary Jane says 4. Any other guesses? Peter, you're the closest on that one. It's actually 1.7. 1.7 people are actually talking to that 95%, that dormant needs folks. You might be saying, well, gosh, John, that's about right, because why do you want to be wasting your time with that 95% who are dormant? Well, I want to be very clear here. I'm not saying waste your time with that 95 and spend all your time with that, but we've got to find a way to stay in touch with those 95, because eventually those 95 find a way over to active world. Just like active world people find a way over to dormant world, just like that. They will make that transfer over. And why do they make that transfer over? Because needs change over time. Something happens that changes how they look at things. And most importantly, something happens that changes how their job is going to run. It's going to affect them personally. So they go from dormant to active to dormant. But what happens if we're not that 1 or 1.7 doing it? When they come over to active, we lay out the chance that we're going to be 1 out of 7. Well, I don't want those numbers. I want to be the person who's giving them the shortcut over here to Earth 2. I want to be the person giving them the help to get over to active, that's pointing out what they could be looking for, what they should be looking for, and why they should be looking for it, and when they should be looking for it, helping them see what they're not getting for their time. Think about it like this. People don't buy a Rolex just because it keeps time. People buy a Rolex because of what it looks like, because it's a status symbol. Now, I'm not saying you sell Rolexes, and I'm not saying you sell watches per se. What I am saying is people buy things for all kinds of different reasons, and it's our job to show that dormant 95% or 95 people, to move them over to the active world, what those reasons are, to show them why they should be moving over to the active. And then when they come over there, and we can eliminate some of those 7 and maybe eliminate all of them, and we're the only ones they're looking at, we up our chance to close more business. Now, here's a little fast fact, some more math for you. Fact, 80% of new client relationships are created between the 5th and 10th contact. Do you think that you're going to be making 5 to 10 contacts with those active people? No, you're maybe 1 or 2 shots in the door. It's the dormant side of the house that you want to be spending your time. You want to be spending your time here, getting something done, so you are the one getting them over to this earth. If you can do that, you've got a chance to break the paradigm and to start differentiating yourself from your competition. All right. Questions on the 95-5 rule? Okay. So, what is nurture prospecting? Simply put, nurture prospecting, it's the creation of a value-driven relationship where none existed before. We utilize multiple venues, information sources, but the key is this. We never turn to blatant advertising. No glossy brochures, no 4-page gatefold handouts, nothing like that. All information-driven pieces that are all about informing the client. That's nurture prospecting. The idea is this, okay? Well, you know what? I'll get to that next, all right? I got a question coming in. I was going to try and kill this question. Paul, I'll get to your question here in 1 second. New contact processes, all right? Just like the slide shows there, let's face it, it's kind of a Trojan horse. Those people in that 95%, they know why we are talking to them. They're not idiots. They know that we're sending them information because we want to eventually be with them someday in terms of being their provider for whatever product or service we have. That's okay, though. They don't mind it if we're doing something that helps them. They don't mind it so much if we're doing something that adds value to what they're doing. They don't mind if it's something that's going to help them look better in their boss's eyes, look better with their customer, in their customers, or their overall company's eyes. It doesn't matter what they see in terms of why we're doing it, just that we're giving them what they need to succeed. We're the only ones who have to be worried or concerned about getting them that information. They shouldn't have to worry about that. Let us be the purveyors of that. And it's a bit of a Trojan horse, but we're the ones making sure they get this. Also, the other point about the new contact process we're going to be talking about, these are a combo of both push and pull to form a kind of a magnetic marketing system, all right? Something that's going to draw people towards us, all right? We want to do both things. It's the old, what they call a straw man argument. It's neither, it's, well, we should be doing things like this, but we should be doing things like that. I say do everything. When you've got a chance to get something done and you don't know what exactly is going to work, I say you push all the levers until you find exactly what's going to work. A push and pull system, and form a magnetic system where people are coming to you as much as you're going to them. All right, Paul, now your question. Okay, so how does this fit with any other concurrent marketing programs we may be executing? That's from Paul Paul, where are you from? Tampa. You're Paul from Tampa. Paul, how this fits, and we're going to talk about this in a little more detail, is this can fit as an add-on or a replacement to whatever that you might be doing. Not everybody does any type of lead generation at all. They might not do anything, okay? So you got those folks. But then you got some people whose company does a complete marketing program where they do things, and they might send out the shiny brochures and the touches, and that's great if your company does that and sends all those things out. I'm talking about something that differentiates you from the competition. If things are coming out from the mother company, fantastic, and they're sending things out big picture, like I said, with the glossy gatefold covers, that's great. But you can focus on low dollar, low impact kind of. When I say impact, meaning things that don't take a whole lot of work in terms of trying to put something together. You don't need to have some type of advanced design degree to put these things together, or you spend all kinds of money printing. These are things that aren't going to take a whole lot from you resource-wise to get done. So they can fit in a couple different ways, Paul, and you'll see as we go on. So I hope I answered it enough for right now, Paul, but I will get to it a little bit more as we go on. All right. Questions about new contact processes. Okay. Now, the big picture, the big piece of the S.I.T philosophy is the big three. The big three are this. Without these three things, forget about doing anything. If you do not do these three things, don't even bother. Hang up the phone, hang up your computer, whatever you're on right now, forget about it. Don't call me again. It's not going to matter if you don't implement these three things in your overall program. The first of the big three is this: relevance. Whatever you send to these folks, it's got to be relevant. It's got to be relevant to them, their job, their company, their industry, their marketplace, their customer, you name it, it's got to be relevant. The first thing you send to them that's all about you, the first thing that you send to them that only talks about you or only talks about your company or whatever, you're going to be off the map. Relevance, relevance, relevance. It's all about them, or as we like to call it, over here at Matrix, WIIFM, the radio station that's tuned to What's in It for Me, WIIFM. Timing. It's all about timing, folks. One of the things I promised you is how to eliminate that situation. Oh, if you would have just called yesterday. Oh, if you'd have just dropped me a line last week. All right. It's all about timing, folks. And there's a lot of things that go into the timing, and timetable is going to help us with this. But you've got to be concerned about timing. And there's some different things that we're going to talk about as we go on. But the thing that I want you to take away from the big three as we go on this particular side is the timing aspect. You've always got to have a mind into it. What is the timing for these things? Is it something that's pre-planned? Is it something that's trigger-oriented? And we're going to talk about that more as we go. And the final part of the big three, consistency. Consistency. Nature abhors a vacuum. I think that's either Newton or Aristotle. It might be Aristotle. Nature abhors a vacuum. And what he's trying to say there is whenever there's a hole, something that's not happening, things get replaced by it. You ever go on vacation, you live on your street, and you ever go on vacation, you come back and you ask your neighbors, hey, what went on, while I was gone? And your neighbors say, no, nothing. Everything's the exact same thing since you left. And then life picks up. No, of course not. Joe across the street may have got a new lawnmower. Mary across the way, their kid just graduated from high school or whatever. Things go on. Nature abhors a vacuum, and it abhors, customers abhor a vacuum too, meaning if we start getting this information that's relevant and we start on a good timing program where they're getting things in different ways at different times, and they're getting these things and starting to like it because guess what? It's content driven, because it's impactful, that it's something that's going to add to their business and help them do their job better. They're going to get addicted to this stuff. And the minute we stop doing it, the minute they stop getting these things from you, guess what happens? They're going to go out and find somebody else. And you're going to drop down their list, and you're going to go from that 1.7 to maybe over on the other earth to that, hopefully that they contact you when, when they're actually looking. And it happens all the time, folks. People get on this and they get they get excited and let's do this program and la, la, la. And guess what? They forget about it. They forget about it. They forget about it. And then they think, oh, I've been doing this for 6 months. Or let's say they've been doing it for 3 months and they haven't had a whole lot of results yet, and they just give up on it. Folks, trust me, this is like Novocaine. Give it time, it will work, but you've got to keep with the system. Nothing works if you stop doing it. All right. And that, folks, is the S.I.T philosophy in a nutshell. This is me in a nutshell. This is the S.I.T philosophy in a nutshell. Questions? S.I.T philosophy before I move on. Questions? Questions? Noonan? All right. Moving along. Where is full page? There it is. Okay. All right. So let's move along. That's the S.I.T philosophy. That's the underlying core of what we're talking about. All right. Changing our mindset, changing the way we think about things, looking at things in terms of relationships. That's the core of things. So what comes next? Elements and structure of S.I.T. All right, and here are some of our friends I told you can be helping us out. Over to the left, as I said earlier, we've got Coach. Coach is going to be instructing us on some of the things that need to happen. And then over here down to the bottom, we've got good old Urgent, and Urgent's going to be helping us out, showing us how to get things done. Right over here, we've got Little Miss Contact, and Contact's going to be, she's kind of shepherding us through this because she's the queen of lead generation. And then, of course, good old Timetable right there. Timetable is going to be talking about the organization and some of the structure pieces of S.I.T. So, elements and structure of S.I.T. And remember, also keep in mind, folks, keep in mind, where am I spending the most amount of my time? We're going to tie that together later. All right, elements of S.I.T. L.T.L.T.I. Learn to love the internet, or how I discovered to stop complaining and start researching in my marketplace. And that's Coach's wise crack comment from us as he's making us run another lap and drop and give us 20. All right, learn to love the internet. Now, I understand you might be saying, well, gosh, John, of course. We get on the internet, we do these things. But let's talk about exactly what you're doing on this. And let's talk about some of the why to it. Sales is relationships, okay? It's not about relationships. And a slim few relationships start because of some unwelcome intrusion that happens because you just kind of dropped in, or I was just calling because. This is exactly how most effective decision makers view what's called that old-fashioned cold call, all right, as we were talking about earlier. They view it as an intrusion. They view it as a waste of their time during the day. So what we need to do is set the table for the relationship by learning about our potential love connection and paying the price of admission here. Doing the things that are necessary that's going to show them that we want to do business with them, all right? Whatever it takes to show our suspect prospect customer that we care enough to invest time in them, and nothing shows it than spending time on the internet finding out information about them. And remember, this work that we're doing is designed to reduce, if not outright eliminate, what I call the UGG factor, all right? And you know the UGG factor. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Before we talk about it, let's talk about a little bit more about the internet and what we're, the overall concept here. Simply this: I'm not telling you that it's easy. I'm not telling you that it's the slickest, smoothest process. What I am telling you is, according to Sherpa and the research that they've done, that delivering relevant content to your market segment is the most effective and requires the most effort. And if you look over here to the bottom left, what's real easy? Ads in third-party newsletters, email to rented list, sharing email on social networks, even event-triggered or what's called autoresponders. We're going to talk about, event-triggered versus, autoresponders. Email to house lists, okay? A little more effective, but it doesn't take as much work. We're going to talk about all these different things, but the important thing to notice is the thing that takes the most time is developing relevant content and delivering that to your market segment. So it takes time, but it does pay off. All right, learn to love the internet. So we've got here, we've got Dr. Know-It-All right next to Coach. And Dr. Know-It-All thinks he knows it all. And I know, the reason why I have him here and why he pops up on this particular slide is Dr. Know-It-All will say, oh, I know my marketplace. Oh, of course I know my people. Oh, of course I know. Of course I know. Of course I know. And what Coach says is, do you really? Do you know your market? Do you know your customers? Do you know what is important to each of them? All right? Do you? That's what the real question is. Do you know these things? And if you don't know them, if you don't know what's important to these people, why don't you know them? And I mean, it doesn't get any more simple than this, folks. If you don't know, what's important to your customers, if you don't know, what motivates them, what moves them, well, then what are you really doing in this job? What are you really doing in this position? And that takes us to that UGG factor. All right. You get them on the phone and you say, I just called too. And then the next thing you hear is, hi, John. There's nothing worse than getting that UGG factor, that UGG, that coming out from them when you're calling them. It's the worst feeling in the world. I know what it feels like. We all know. Anybody who's ever called has heard that sigh from the other end of the line from the customer. We don't want that. This is the way you get rid of them. Now, let's put Dr. Know-It-All through his paces. Let's ask you some of these questions and see what you come up with here, folks. All right? First, and yes, I see there's a question here. I'll get you guys in a second. All right. Do you know all external as well as internal factors that can influence your market? Do you know what regulatory concerns are there and will there be that can affect your market? What is the next trend that will affect business positively or negatively? All right. Give you an example. Some manufacturers coming back from overseas. All right. How can that affect your business? What are all the pertinent events held in your market? What are your suspects, prospects, and customers doing? What are market-driven events and things that they can attend? Do you know what all they are for all the different markets you might work into? Who's making news in your market? Who are the shakers? Who are the players? Do you know them? Can they help you? What will your market look like in 5 years, 10 years? Do you have an idea? Do you have even a clue? Or are you only worried about today? Do you know how your suspects, prospects, and customers' business operate? Do you have any idea along those lines, how they work, what they do on any given day, what their customer sales cycle is like, how your product affects them, not just in what it provides, but how it affects them down the line? Can you answer any of those questions? How about this? Do you know what publications have an article about your suspects, prospects, or customers? Have they been written about? Do they know about? Do they, whatever it might be? Do you know about any press releases from your suspects and customers, prospects that they might be getting out themselves? Do you know about what your suspect, prospects, and customers do for social media, both as a company, as individual contacts? I could keep on going on and on and on and on, but you get the point. There's a huge abundance of information out there just waiting to be gleaned. The problem is, by not doing it, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. You've got to start researching your market space. All right, by not researching your market space, what you're doing, well, let's reverse this. First, by researching your marketplace, you're giving your chance to be a success, By not researching your marketplace, what you're doing is giving your competition a chance to be a success. All right, let's go to that question here. See what we got. All right. Marcus Bob, okay. A little bit more about learn to love the internet. I don't care what you sell, and I don't care, what your product, what your market space per se is. The way we've got to look at things is that we are in what's called a knowledge economy. All right, we're in the idea business, and if we don't learn to be a thought leader, what's going to happen is we're going to die on the vine of the shrinking business plan. I mean, it's as simple as that. We've got to be those people that are different than the competition, that only do the shiny brochure. Think about it. Knowledge economy, idea business, thought leader. Knowledge economy, idea business, thought leader. That's where we want to be. Oh, question from Dominic. Dominic asks, any streamlining suggestions for internet research? Yes and no, Dominic. Okay, here's the thing. I can give you some streamlining suggestions, and I'm going to show you some particular examples when we get to some real examples of the S.I.T systems and some things that are out there. But in terms of streamlining per se, my biggest thing is be specific. Know your keywords. Know the things that affect your industry and do searches along those lines. If you need some more specifics, you can give me a call and I can help you out with that. But because every industry is so different, streamlining is really going to depend based on, an industry to industry thing. I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't be looking at unless I know more about your particular industry. I'm sorry that's not much of an answer, but you'll see more about it when I do some real examples. All right. Learn to love the internet. Some industry resource examples, just like I was talking about here, Dominic. Let me give you a couple here. All right, first of all, here's Industry Week. I'm going to actually go live to Industry Week. Industry Week's a great little site, and it gives you virtually everything going on in manufacturing and virtually every industry, big and small, across the country. All right. As you see, first page here, talking about S.I.T, Australia and India. You're talking about Ford. You go over to the right, they got more features about some specific things. It's a really, really great site. If you're in any type of manufacturing industry type thing, it's a really, really great site for that type of information. Automation.com. For those of you in process controls, any type of automation, that type of stuff, here's a great site for you. Lots of great information in here. Some different portals we can get some information, may feature information here for different, you got here powerful new programmable controller, you got video demo, product announcements, things that can help you out along those lines. American Banker. I saw there was about how many bankers? We had like 7 bankers signed on today. American Banker is a great site to get a lot of good information. And by the way, folks, these are all sites that I use actively because I have clients in all kinds of different businesses. Nope, don't want you. All right, American Banker. A lot of great information here. Banking, what's going on in the banking world. Woodstock Wire, this is a little bit, there's not a direct website for it. Woodstock Wire is actually an email sign-up, but this is what you get in your email box, and this is what I get every day from Woodstock Wire. And this is on the electronics industry, all right? Everything they do about the electronic industry, things out there, Intel, you name it, Intel, Google, Microsoft, all the VARs that are out there, all the, the defense stuff, you name it, I get it, comes to me on Woodstock, and it gets to me in these nice little bullet points like this, that I can just sit there and take, and I can click to get the rest of the story. All right, I love my Woodstock Wire. It's one of my favorites. All right, what else we got? Defense Industry Daily. Everything to do with the defense world. Okay, go there real quick. If it lets me. There we go. Defense Industry Daily. Everything about the Defense Department and everything, all the projects, everything that you got going on, and it's great. So if you do anything in defense, and you can backward it out from there too, defense projects, and you can backward it out from different tiers of suppliers going on all the way down the line. Great, 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 great place. And finally, another one from a customer I just finished up with. Coatings World. Here's one in the Coatings World. Anything to do with coatings. Coatings this, coatings that, you name it, Coatings World talks about it. Breaking news. So, Dominic, as we were, as you were asking questions, I really can't tell you specifically what for your particular marketplace or streamline for your particular marketplace, but what I can do is I can show you some of these other sites that are out there if you give me a call or email me, and I'd be willing to do that for you. All right. Questions about industry resources? Got a couple questions there. Let's real quick. Some of the best resources, I think I answered that, but the streamline kind of answered that. The one I want to get to that I saw, before I leave the resource page, and I do want to move along here, is when it comes to this, there's a time constraint, and there's no question about it. All I can tell you is use the WIT philosophy, whatever it takes. I can't tell you exactly how long it's going to take you. What I can tell you is the less time you spend on it, if you think you're just going to whip through it, you're not going to get the job done. Sorry if that doesn't help you out, but folks, it doesn't get any simpler than that. All right, elements of S.I.T. Your inventory of S.I.T touches. Inventory of S.I.T touches. Everything that's out there. And over here, we've got our friend Contact. She's going to be helping us out on this, talking to us a little bit about some of the different elements of the S.I.T program. Oh, and there's Urgent. Urgent's going to be jumping in here too. Hey, Urgent, what's going on? All right. First, let's explain Urgent's his place here. The reason why I have Urgent here is it's really simple. Urgency, as I said, is defined by not only your perception but by your customer's perception. And since we're not sending out things, and I don't want to be sending out things that say, if you sign up now, if you make sure you do it by this date, these blatant advertising things. If you're doing it like that, they're not going to view that as urgency. People view as urgency when they're getting contacts from you that talk about things that have to be done because of business-related issue. And that's what Urgent always reminds us here, as well as Contact, as she's reaching out, and you see, she's able to touch a lot of these different things. And let's kind of just jump into that inventory of S.I.T touches, all the things that are involved, and I'll explain each one of them as we go here. First off, social media. Well, folks, that's pretty self-explanatory. All right, we all know what social media is. All right, the point though here is, I think some people ignore these at their own peril. And if you think suspects and prospects and customers don't look you up and your company up, then you're in for a world of hurt. So my point is, if you're putting things on here that you don't, that shouldn't be getting put on here, if you're, doing ridiculous stuff, on there, make sure you're not. But more importantly, use LinkedIn, use Facebook, use Twitter, use Flickr, use YouTube, okay? I like to call them a warming drawer for suspects and prospects and customers, a very soft way to get known by putting some things up there, all right? Plus, remember, folks, it's not about hitting a home run all the time with everything. Sometimes it's about building up keywords and connections to make your SEO easier. The more times you've got your name linked to different words out there on the internet, the more times spiders are going to crawl over it, and the more times you're going to get chances to get searched and quite frankly, get a better chance to get hit. Intro letters. We're going to talk about some examples. Process has to start somewhere. Intro letters, getting in the door, and you're going to see what I mean by an intro letter. Initial calls, all right. Intro letter goes out, got to be followed by an initial call. A continuing education touch, Well, once you've got that initial call and when they've got that intro letter, you've got to stay in contact with them, so you want to continually educate the customers. Industry articles, okay? Articles about things that they can actually use in their industry. That could be a potential touch. An info event touch could be a webinar, could be a seminar, could be a networking event, could be a trade show, something that is important in their industry that could affect them. If you get it to them, you're the one who provides that info for them. Info education call, when you call them and you've got an idea. Now think about this. Remember we're talking about removing the UGG factor, folks? Think about this. If you're sending out, or in your social media, you've got good knowledge content in there, and in your intro letters, it's real basic. It gets to the point, tells them why you'd be calling them. In your call, you tell them, why you're calling them. You get to the point. Then you start to continually educate them, and they're getting industry articles, an info event. Now you give them a call, and all of a sudden, instead of getting that UGG, they're like, oh, hey, John, what's going on? They want to know what's going to come out of your mouth next because all you've been doing is educating them. And the next time they get a phone call, they don't know what the next good idea is. They're going to start to look forward to that. And that's where that consistency in the big three comes in. So now when they start to look forward to that, you've got to make sure you continue to provide good, relevant content, all right? Company personal event, meaning if you're doing something, your company, or you are doing a webinar or a seminar, and if your company's got that grand overarching marketing plan they're doing webinars and seminars, fantastic. But glom onto that, guys. Glom onto that and do your own, all right? If you've got 500 potential customers, there's no reason you shouldn't be setting up webinars with those 500 potential customers. Social seasonal touches, all right? This goes, you notice how far down the list it is. Social seasonal touches. I like getting things out, of course, for the big dates, like Christmas, and the big dates have some resonance, but also get them out for the small ones. Arbor Day, come up with something cute for it, all right? A tree grows in your backyard, and I can help grow your business, something like that, all right? Social, of course, because you're doing all this contact with them, you're going to know more and more about them. Their kids playing soccer, what's their birthday, those types of things. just because, those things should be farther down the list doesn't mean they should be ignored. But by blending them in with all the information and content makes it that much stronger. And then impact touches. That's those unique ways of staying in contact with these people. And I've got a great article from one of my, from a friend of ours, I'll put it, that works a SIT program and uses a really cool impact touch to get that. And these are all the different types of SIT touches that you could potentially use out there in the marketplace. Next part of that, though, is the modes of delivery. How do we get this out to our customers? What are the modes of delivery for our SIT touches? Well, of course, we've got direct mail, we've got telephone, email, social media, communities, drop-offs, and then UPS, FedEx, et cetera, that kind of stuff. The question is how do all these things knit together, all right? And that's why Timetable is here to help us out. There is no one way of saying this is the best way of doing that, that's the best way of doing that. The only thing I can tell you is you've got to find out what works best for you, understand what works best for you. But I can tell you is that a combination of all of these things are always going to work. When you're only doing one thing all the time, you become predictable, and dare I say it, you can become boring. Do different things, direct mail, telephone, email, and I'm telling you folks, direct mail still works. You may have to pay a little bit for it, but if you got a clean list, if you're doing all the right stuff, you're going to get a high return rate. How high? Well, I'll show you some of the return rates, in that article. Telephone, by doing all these right things, you're going to get a high return rate. Email, if you're doing the right things, you should be hitting 25-30% return minimum, all right? And that's on click-through, not just on opens. Social media communities, this is our warming drawer. This is setting the entree-vous to all these other things. Drop-offs, you're out in the area, you're out, you're doing an appointment. Let's say you're on the road in Tampa, or you're on the road in Cleveland for whatever reason, and you're on the road there and you've got business. Well, instead of just going to your hotel, going to the meeting, and flying home, schedule a day around doing drop-offs. Who else is in that territory that you can drop off information, physically drop off information? Always have car stock with you. Always have things that you can drop off to people. Always have something that you can drop off. Never be caught flat-footed. UPS, FedEx, take advantage of that. If you've got, think about this, folks. If you've got a customer that's worth, $50,000, $60,000, even somebody's worth $15,000 to you, all right, $5,000 to you, what's the cost of sending a $5 UPS envelope to them or a $5 FedEx envelope? But it's not very much. The point being, though, is you send a FedEx or UPS, you up the chance of them opening it and looking at it. You know what the average people open up direct mail is? The rate is about 60%. It's like 59. The percent of people who open up a UPS FedEx number, it's 94%. I'll pay that $5 to get that 94% chance of somebody opening it up, increasing my odds 34%. It's a fantastic number. For the amount of investment, it's worth it. All right. So now we've talked about the different pieces. We've talked about the different pieces, different types of touches, and we've talked about the modes of delivery. Now let's move on to the next piece, the calendar of SIT touches, where all the different things and how do they all mesh together here, and how do we do that? All right. So as we talked about earlier, there's a couple different things you can do. First, you can set up your calendar based on fixed timing. Initial contacts, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, and annually, events that are going on, trade shows, networking, you name it, or social situations, birthdays, holidays, that kind of thing. Then there are opportunity type touches that we want to get out there. Research-based, activity-based, triggered and socially. So research-based, we're doing some research and we find something that, that says, gosh, that we should be doing, that this person needs to know about this because this is going to affect their industry. That's something that tells you should get something out to them immediately. Activity-based, that's that we're out there in the area or we're at a networking function. Make these things pay for themselves by doing extra there. Trigger-based, okay? Something hits you, whether it be, it's a time of year, could be seasonal, you name it, but it's something that says this is when things should go out. Could be timing for a trade show, you name it, whatever it is, but it's a trigger type base. And then socially is opportunity driven too, because you never know who you're going to run into and when you're going to run into them. You may be at a Borders bookstore someday with half a beard watching your kid plays, your kid play with the little Thomas the Train and start talking to somebody, and next thing you know, you got a new client. You don't know. Always focus your calendar on all these different things. Some things you can put in stone, the fixed timing, of course, and some of the opportunity-driven, but some things you can't, the socially and that type of stuff, but you've always got to be prepared for these things. Now you'll see here I got this ogre kind of obscuring timetable here a little bit. There's a reason for that, all right? This ogre who can just absolutely just kill us when it comes to putting together a calendar, sit touches. What he's going to do is he's going to put us in that situation where he's going to completely ruin timetable because he can lose things, forget things. That's why it's so important to have a good calendar together. And that's what we're going to show you next when we show you the reality of the sit system and some different things you can be doing. All right. Questions? Covered a lot of stuff there. All right, next. Sit in the real world. Sit in the real world. First, let's show you that article that I was talking about. Creative sit leads lead a 31 increase in sales. We won't go into the weeds, okay, but and go into everything here. But the company CRP, pretty old company. They deal with a lot of NAFTA stuff, manufacturing, and that type of thing. So it's not like they're a cutting edge, high technology, super cool industry, but what they are is an effective industry. And here's what they did, all right? Their campaign was real simple. They did a lot of research, identifying a new target market. Then they got outside their comfort zone. All right, they cleaned up its database, identified a target of only 250 distributors, all right, figured things out, came up with a traditional letter with an offer. Then came up with something really cool, or what I call an impact touch. Okay, the first mailing they sent out was essentially an empty box with a product catalog in the form of a mini brochure. The message headlining on the brochure was, if you had ordered a hose from us yesterday, it would have been inside this box. Mailing 2 was a box with 3 sorry cards included along with a mini brochure. The message headlining the brochure was, a few words about CRP hoses. Sorry isn't one of them. The sorry cards were included for prospects to give their customers if they sold them a non-CRP hose. And mailing 3 included a full disguise kit with glasses, a funny gnome, mustache, and mini brochure. Obviously, if you sold them a hose that wasn't a CRP. Really, really clever, all right? But to give you an idea how clever, we'll go right to this, what happened here. The results. 15% response rate just on the call to action, all right? CRP's typical sales cycle ranges from 3 to 6 months all the way up to 12 months, but the campaign generates sales quotes, and within a month of the end of the effort, CRP closed 3 new customers. The new customers from the campaign initiated opening orders within 3-month window, dramatically cutting CRP's sales cycle. CRP saw an increase of 31% in 2010 sales over 2009 in the targeted market segment. I mean, it works, folks. These things work. We've just got to use them. And there's a lot of other good information. If you guys want this information, I'll make sure I get it off to you. You know, but I'll get it to you. I don't want to go too deep in the weeds today, only because I want to make sure we get through everything. I also have, you know, quite a few different, you know, sample letters here. I'll pull a couple things up here just to, you know, get an idea, so you get the idea of what we're talking about in terms of initial letters and how we get the program started. So here's a sample initial letter for somebody. I want you to notice a couple things about it. It's very, very simple, all right, and it's very, very short. Total wording is about 3 paragraphs altogether, but it's simple, short, to the point, bullet pointed, gives people a chance to look at exactly what we're dealing with, but most importantly, it doesn't broadcast anything. It's not blatant. All it does is say, listen, you know, we're going to contact you in the near future for a time to meet. That's it. Please feel free to give me a call. No demonstrative call to action. Real simple. Just an initial touch to get out there to get the process started. Then once you get the process started, obviously, then you've got to, you know, you get going with it. You got a couple samples, a couple phone calls go out to them. Then you want to do a sit touch with them. So you want to get something out to them that has some information, and that's an even more simple letter. Hello, hope all is going well. Since we last talked, we've been doing this, blah, blah, blah. We've been educating our customers, da-da-da-da, and you send them out a copy of an article, all right, that potentially there that they could use for whatever reason. Again, real simple stuff. Sample follow-up letter, all right, some other things. Trade show invite, okay, I've got examples of trade show letters that you can send out to these people that are real simple. Pre-show, before the show meet, hit and miss trade show letters, sample miss thank you. You know, I would go into a lot more of these, but I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But you guys get the idea here. A lot of different little ideas, a lot of different little touches here. And here's a couple samples of article touches that I'm talking about. Here's a simple article for a technology company I was working with, Clean Room, Clean Robot. All right, and the idea of using a robot in clean room situations and why and what the situation, it was just something that was good for them at that time. Does it mean a whole lot to me? No, but it meant something to them, and that's all that counts. Here's something for somebody in the food processing industry that I found last year. And it's a white paper on the safe path to success, how a food safety training program for employees and managers is a critical component. The food processing companies I got this off to were tremendously full of gratitude because I got this to them. It gave them something that they could chew on, but more importantly, get it chewed on, food industry. Gave them something that they could chew on, but something that they could share with their customers too. And I've got more examples of these, but I don't want to bore you too much. The last thing I want to show you is an example of an impact touch that I would do. And I actually put this on a transparency, and I'll send it out to somebody with a note that says something like, "Do your knees hurt? Do your knees hurt from chasing after your salespeople? Do your knees hurt from chasing after customers? Blah blah blah," and follow up with a cute little comment there. Again, guys, different things that are unique, something that will make you stand out, but something that's not blatant advertising is what we're looking for. Something that differentiates you, something that makes it a relationship. I mean, I'm having you might hear me, just pausing and hesitating a little bit, but it's because I feel so deeply about this issue. There's nothing worse than a customer feeling like you're only calling them because it's a booty call, a drive-by, that you're just calling because that you want to sell them something. There's nothing better than that customer knowing that you're trying to build a relationship with them. That is a great feeling. And finally, sit in the real world is this. You've always got to measure. You've always got to monitor, measure, and modify. Track what's going on out there. Monitor, measure, and modify. What's going on? What's working? What's not? Tweak it. Play with it. If it doesn't work, try something else. Do something a little bit different. Always be looking. Always be looking for that next thing that's out there. Always be trying to get better. And remember, if something's not paying off, well, guess what? Don't keep doing it. You want to do it and do it and do it and give it a chance. Now, I'm not telling you to stop doing lead generation. I am telling you to stop doing whatever you're currently doing and try something else. Monitor, measure, and modify. Always be looking for the reproducible results, all right? Always be looking for that thing that you can get that will lead to more business. All right. Oh, got a question here. Get to that. Question from Emily. Is there a rule about how many touches? Yeah, Emily, the rule is the amount of touches that are necessary, the amount of touches that are necessary to make a sale. And it's the amount of touches that are also, you also put this qualifier, that are correct and that fit within your industry. No, there's not really a hard, fast rule, Emily. The rule is it's got to be industry, customer specific. It's got to be as personal as possible. You've got to personalize this, and then you've got to monetize it. You've got to personalize it. You've got to monetize it. What's personal to them, and how does it transfer into money to them? That's what's going to drive the point home with these people. All right. So, goals for today then. Let's go back to that, and how did we hit these? Decrease time in the sales cycle, increase closing percentage. We talked about how we're going to do that and how that'll happen. Removing the UGG factor. We talked about how the things we're going to be doing here with the S.I.T program will do that. It will warm up our cold calling. Increasing our average sales size. We showed you that one specific situation that does do that. Receive the magic call from contacts saying they received our information. Again, I mean, that's what's going to happen by doing this. Have a real reason to call our contact and not just be stuck saying I just wanted to. So instead of saying I just wanted to, now you can call and say, hey, I wanted to check and see if you got that. Oh, see how I said that? Wanted to check. Point of the story is there's always a reason to call them now. They're getting articles. They're finding out about webinars. You've got a million different excuses to call these people now. Use them, and you don't have to sound like the same old person anymore. And finally, be a thought leader. Somebody your client turns to when they have questions because they know that they're not going to be in the buying cycle all the time, but they also know that they just need information, and you can be that person to provide them that information. Be that person. Be that person. All right. That wraps it up for today, the S.I.T lead generation system. I will be taking questions, further on here. I'll be staying on the line for another 15 or 20 minutes taking questions, as well as you can email me. But let's do a little housekeeping here. We had a registered raffle winner for people who registered before May 2nd. The winner of How Customers Think by Gerald Zaltman is Nicole DePompe of Avid Technologies. Nicole, thank you very much. In case you can't hear that, that's me golf clapping for you. Congratulations. You win a copy of How Customers Think by Gerald Zaltman. I'll be getting that off to you. Some more housekeeping. Make sure you guys hook up with me. I'm on Twitter at SalesImpact, at Sales_Impact. LinkedIn, okay, I'm under John Kolensik. You can find me, or Matrix Impact. Facebook, I'm under Matrix Impact. A couple websites, matriximpact.com, excuse me, where I have just a lot of different information there that will help you do your job better. I'm also have an event site called buildyoursalesmachine.com, where I have press releases and all kinds of information about me and seminars, upcoming webinars, and things like that that's going on. And also make sure you get onto the fantastic sales forum. That's matriximpact.com/FSF. We will be getting out to you through the FSF, to the Fantastic Sales Forum, when the next webinar is. We'll let you know what's going on with that and when. And then finally, remember, folks, you can either make excuses or you can make sales, but you can't do both. Thank you for your time and attending S.I.T Lead Generation. We will talk to you soon. All right. I'll stay on the line here for some questions. Oh, got a question coming in right now. Sam. Just Sam. Okay. Sam wants to know, let me see if I can shorten your end. That's a doozy of a question there, Sam. Okay. Let me shorten that down. What Sam's question is, have you ever found one thing that doesn't work? And the answer to that, Sam, Sam went into it in great detail, what particular thing didn't work, and he labeled them all out. But the short shrift of Sam's question was, have you ever found something that doesn't work? The answer is yes, but I've only found what doesn't work in one particular industry or with one particular customer. I've never found something that's not worked universally. There's always been something that's worked with somebody else. Okay, so if intro letters didn't work with somebody and we had to do more of just jumping right into continue education contacts and phone calls, then that's what we had to do. If we had to jump right into impact letters and whatever it was, I always found we've always found that there's always something that works. Now there's some things that work industry to industry to industry, person by person by person, but it's always going to be different. Ann has a question. Why no call to actions? Well, if you see Ann, her question is why why the feeling about no call to actions? Well, and quite simply, call to actions are great, and they're not bad in certain situations. But what we're trying to do here is build relationships. And if you think about it, in any relationship, when you're hanging out with a person, whether it be a friend or somebody you're dating, you don't have a call to action in that relationship. You don't say to them, hey, you know what, blah, 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 blah. It's always you're building a relationship, taking the next logical step. So if things go well, then you schedule another date. If things go well from that, then you schedule where you're going away for the weekend or whatever. And it goes on and on until you put a ring on that person's finger and you get married. And my point is it's the same thing here. What we're trying to do is build the relationships. If you've got a company that's doing big overarching marketing, I promise you they've got some call to action. And there is going to be time when call to action is necessary, but excuse me, initially we want to focus on building relationships, to stay away from booty calls and make them business calls. All right. Kirk has a question. Oh, Kirk, yep, sample. Yeah, Kirk, good point. I do have some sample of schedules. I didn't get a chance to show that to you because we kind of ran short on time here. That's my fault for talking too much. But let's give you an example of I'll give you an example real quick of something that I do for my social media calendar. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday, I write about lead generation information. Tuesday, I write about training or continual development topics. Wednesday, I write about hiring and assessment topics. Thursday, I write about CEO level stuff. And Friday, I write about sales management level stuff. I also use different hashtags with Twitter, hashtag sales tip, hashtag sales, hashtag quote, hashtag motivation, hashtag marketing tips, and so on and so on. I use those whenever I'm doing my different my tweets, as well as I'm doing LinkedIn and Facebook and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's just on the most basic level of stuff that I do. But on a bigger level with letters and the whole 9 yards, give you an example. We've got people that are continually sending out intro letters to folks, and because their databases are so big, what they're doing is every 6 months they're re-introing if they haven't got in, because let's face it, not every salesman is going to get to every phone call every time. So there's many times you're going to have to re-intro letter to folks. And if you don't get a chance to talk to them, because if they do get a chance to talk to them, you can put them in the cycle and kind of rotate them through. And again, that's something that you guys didn't see today. I apologize about that. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of different stuff. If you've got some specific stuff, please feel free just to pick up the phone, send me an email, and I'll get something over to you. What else? Owen. Yes, Owen. Owen's question is what type of events can you recommend in terms of personal events that you can do out of your own pocket? Owen, the list is limitless, but let me give you one specific one that I like to do. In town here, we have something called Majestic Yachts, and it's a rent-a-yacht kind of service. And for a very, very reasonable fee, usually it's about $600-700, I can rent a yacht for 3 hours, take them out on Lake Erie in the middle of the summertime, and get people, plying with food, and they'll just be me in front of a bunch of decision makers on a yacht in the middle of Lake Erie eating food for a couple hours for $600 to $1,000. So let's do the math there. My average sale is about $5,000, $6,000 with initial contact, and $15,000 to $20,000 with people 30 to 90 days out. So if I just get one sale, I get virtual ROI from that. All right. If I get more than one sale, I'm so far in the black, my wife's happy. So what's my point? That's just one example. You always got to look at it in terms of return on investment, and the return on investment is always going to be what obviously what you put into going out. But that's an example there. Putting people on a yacht, get them out in the middle of a lake, ply them with some food, get some good information to them. And I'm telling you, for the amount of money that you spend on these kind of things, and like I said, it usually costs me between $600 and $1,000, to do that. For that $1,000, the amount of clients I get, it more than blows away the return on investment. All right, I'll take one more question, of which I've got about 6, so I apologize. I'll take one more of these questions, and I'll go with Winston. Winston, because you got a cool name, both for Winston Churchill and also for Winston from Pulp Fiction. All right, Winston. So your question is, should you ever send out any brochures? Should you ever send out any 4-color pieces, trifold, gatefold, that kind of stuff? Yes. Now, for those of you who are still on the line, I know you might be saying, "Oh my gosh, John, what are you talking about? Isn't that heresy? You just said don't do that." Well, what I'm telling you is you should do that. Why? If somebody asks for it, yeah, but you've got to qualify that person. You just don't throw it out willy-nilly, and it's nothing ever that's a lead piece that goes out. That's not just the first thing that goes out. If somebody, you're talking to them, you're starting to develop a relationship, things are going the right direction, and they ask for it, and you find out they ask for it the right reasons, you don't just send things out willy-nilly. But if you've qualified, there's a reason to send it out, yeah, then send out that nice 4-piece color, that gatefold, that pretty glossy brochure, the whole 9 yards. But make sure it's a good situation. Don't just send it out willy-nilly. Never, ever, 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 ever send it out for initial touch. Just don't do that. All right, Winston? All right, folks, that's it for me. I'm going to wrap up here today. Please direct all your questions to Matrix Impact, John K. at matriximpact.com. Give me a phone call at 216-347-6729. Anytime you got a question, anytime you got anything I can help you out with, please let me know. And remember, the link to the webinar will be coming out in the Fantastic Sales Forum next week. And other than that, thanks for your time. Have a great day, and we will see you on the flip side.